Hello, Robert. Hello, Bob. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
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 We got that down.
Before everybody starts in and has a good time, let's get started.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce Jane and Dino Music. They're want to wave, you two.
Hello.
Hello, Jane
from the
and
food
Dino.
pantry.
Hi.
And they are members of St. Paul's Episcopal Church. So, and I hope all of you know St. Paul's Episcopal Church is where the food pantry is located. They have been very, very generous. It used to be down in the basement and of the church, and that was not good. And they found this room, I guess it used to be an old storage room, garage, and redid it all. And it was, it's very, very nice. In fact, I'm going to hold something up, but I don't know. I'm not sure where to hold it. So can you see that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I see it.
That's what the food pantry looks like.
Is that in
It
Maumee?
looks like a grocery store.
Is it in Maumee?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see a table in there for eating.
Oh,
The staff
no,
doesn't get fed.
You have to cook this, Ned. You can't just go in there and eat our cooking. You have to.
Shucks.
And so before the COVID, the people would come in and actually shop off the shelves. And there were certain amounts, et cetera, they could have, but with COVID, we can no longer have the people coming in like that. And so now they come and we bag the groceries up and take them to the cars. The runners do that. Dino does that. Charlie does that. Judy and I work inside. So that's the new way. I don't like it as well. It was great to be in there and have the clients come inside and you could, chat with them, etc. And, but obviously times are different right now. So that's how we do it. I'm going to just talk a little bit more, Jane and Dino, and then jump in. You must make an appointment to come. Now, again, in the COVID time now, we don't require that. And they can come as often as they want because we know there are a lot of people hurting out there. But we go by something called Pantry Track. And so we have all the information on the family. And so when they come, we know how many are in their family. We know their ages. So we can gear our grocery bags to their family. They're not just boxed. They're boxed or bagged actually by the family size and ages. And so that makes it a little more personal, even though we'd rather have them shopping. Let's see, what else? Jane
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I wondered if you could, first, before we go further into the operation of the pantry, I'm curious to see, now it's the same thing to Janet and Dino, how you all got involved in the food pantry.
Okay.
Well, I was, I'm the representative from our church that Clint had asked me. So there's an advisory board of, I don't know, Jane and Dino, it's about 15 maybe, representing all the churches.
I think about 12.
12.
10 to 12 people.
It represents all the churches plus that sponsor this as well as St. Luke's. So that's how I got. Of course, Jane and Dino have been at this for a long time because they're members of that church.
Right.
Okay.
I think I first got involved with it. It was already in existence when I got started. It was down in the basement, as Janet mentioned, which was hard for the volunteers as well as the clients. You know, carrying groceries up and down steps isn't a whole lot of fun. But it was started by an organization called the Women of St. Paul's. And basically they just tried to put together like some emergency supplies in case there was a family within our congregation that came on, had in some type of an emergency or unforeseen situation come up where they couldn't afford food. And it started out as just, you know, one shelf with donations on it, not anything major. But from that it grew, and we started out in the basement. I personally got started with it when I became a member of St. Paul's Vestry, and they asked us to choose one ministry that we could be kind of a liaison to that committee between the Vestry board and the committee. So I became the liaison while I was on Vestry. And Dino, is that you kind of?
Yes, I was there a couple of years before I went on Vestry, but I've been on Vestry for 3 years. And I was the liaison to the food pantry also. I'm also the treasurer of the food pantry.
Well, I find it
Vestry
interesting.
commitment just ended, so I'm still going to stay on the board, so even though it's ended.
So Jane and Dina, I find it interesting that you got to choose, but Janet got chosen. Just for some little more background, because I really don't know a whole lot about the food pantry, even though I'm in Maumee and serving in Maumee. But what year are we talking about when it started? In the basement.
Well, we've been members at St. Paul's since about when? 2000, and it was already in existence.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly when those early beginnings were. But at the time that we joined, it was down in the basement.
And I came on the board in, I think, 2014, and it was still in the basement then.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably
And
doing
for
that
those
capital.
of you that aren't familiar with the Episcopal Church, their vestry is our session. So that's what Jane was on vestry, and now Dino is on vestry. Well, he's about to go off, I guess.
Yeah, just about.
A
least for a
little
year.
bit about our involvement as far as our church. It's somewhat a program of church, Maumee Churches United, although there are some churches that have their own food pantry type program. And so they don't participate. There are a couple, Maumee United Methodist, St. Paul's Lutheran are the two that come to mind. But our church has been on, of course, Clint is the head of Maumee Churches United. So we've been involved with that for quite a long time. And a part of our involvement is to have someone on the board. And we also, at this point, we give $1,000 a year to the treasury. We give $500 twice a year to support the program.
And you also contribute with volunteers.
Yes, such as Jimmy and Charlie.
Yes.
So I volunteer as well as being on the board, and I'm the volunteer coordinator. We have about 30 to 35 volunteers in any given month. They only work 2 hours every other week, unless they choose to work more. But so that's a really nice, it's a really, really nice group of people. When COVID came, there were some people who could not continue to volunteer because maybe they themselves had some immune issues, maybe they were a caretaker. So we had to start changing our procedures anyway. So it worked out okay because at this point we can only have 2 volunteers actually working in the pantry, plus the runner that goes to the cars and takes the stuff out. So that meant we used to have 3 or 4 on a team, but so at the time we lost some, it also worked out that we didn't need as many as we had before. We partner with the Seagate Food Bank, and so Seagate once a month furnishes food to us. And we're very fortunate because some pantries cannot get the food because they don't have anybody to pick it up. It's a lot of food. We're very fortunate in that the city of Maumee furnishes the truck and the drivers to pick it up and bring it on the 3rd Thursday, 2nd or 3rd?
Second.
Anyway, so, and Jane has some statistics because she does a report for her church for their vestry. So Jane, do you have some of those with you?
I do. You can imagine the COVID-19 pandemic has really had a profound impact on our business. So during this current year, 2020, we served 2,110 families. The previous year, we only served 1,469, which is a good number, but you can see that we've added more than 25% more people to our list. We actually count the number of families that we serve, and in 2020, we served 773 families as opposed to the year before 605 families. So when the pandemic happened, which was in March, that's when we started getting a lot of new families calling in who had been laid off. And that continued throughout the rest of 2020, because I think at first people probably thought, oh, maybe we can weather this, we can go for a month or 2 and kind of stretch things out. But as the pandemic continued, we saw more families coming forward each month, and we added them to our roster.
Is the pantry open to all communities?
Yes, we don't have any zip code restrictions. If somebody's hungry, that's what we're there for.
Sure. How many are the majority coming from Maumee?
Not necessarily. South Toledo, Maumee, Springfield. We have one lady, what's the town?
Comes from Liberty Center.
Liberty Center, which is quite a drive,
My wife grew up in Liberty Center.
Yeah.
No, I have a lot of family in Liberty Center still.
Yes, and she comes because we usually have diapers and sometimes Similac, and she has little kids. So that's why she makes a point to come all the way to our pantry. It's a...
Yeah, we
one of the, oh, go ahead, Jane.
I was going to say, we try to provide some things that other pantries don't. We have fresh meat and poultry and produce and, fruits and vegetables. We actually have a garden that we created and use every year. So starting in the spring, Dino's involved with that. He and Jane Weber work on the garden and get it going. And our clients really love to have the fresh produce. And we also have people who have gardens at their homes that will also donate from their garden, because you know how it goes. When your tomatoes start coming in, they just keep coming. And you can only use so many at a time, So if people have excess from their gardens, then they'll give it to us also. to supplement what we don't grow ourselves. Yeah.
Another thing that we have that many food pantries don't have are hygiene items.
Yes.
and kitchen, like we have shampoo, toothbrushes, toothpaste,
deodorant,
dishwash soap, yeah, deodorant, personal hygiene items. We have a lot of things like that, and a lot of food pantries don't. That's why a lot of people like to come to ours, because they can get that type of thing with the rest. Because with food stamps, even if they have food stamps, they can't buy that type of thing with food stamps either.
Right.
And so and we'll bring up the fact that Meijer, I don't know how many of you shop at Meijer, but they are wonderfully generous. And they have something called Simply Give. And they go to different food pantries, and you buy like a little ticket for $10, and then you take it in, or you can buy it there in the store. And so you pay $10, and then Meijer matches that with 10. So every time you would buy a card for $10, they give us $20. And they have double match days where when we give $10, we get 30. And so we get, I mean, $3,000-$4,000 in that each time. And this year they're adding a new one because of the needs. They're adding an extra Simply Give campaign. They usually have 3. This year they had 4, and we were chosen for the 4th one. Again, we've had it once this year. And so they are very, very generous. And what they do is give us food cards, and we have to buy food with that. We can't buy the personal things either. But just to put in a plug for them, because they're wonderful.
Where do you purchase those cards at? In the store?
Yes.
Well, they used to have them at the church. I had them down by the connection center, or the connection table. Obviously now, well, when the last time we had it, we didn't have church inside. So there was no way we could do that. I mean, we couldn't call people. So it will be there when we get our cards. They will be at the connection table. But you can also buy, usually at the end of the aisle, they have a sign up, and it says Simply Give, and it tells what pantry it's going to.
Yeah, right as you're going through the checkout, there'll be a display, and it will have the cards, and you just pick up a card and you hand it to the cashier. And as she's ringing up your order, she scans that, and it adds $10 to your order.
Oh.
And you have to designate which food pantry it's going to?
No, they choose which food pantry it's going to.
Okay.
And we have been chosen for the next campaign, which starts on Valentine's Day. So
good timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll go all the way through April 10th.
Oh, wow.
It's a long one.
So it's a longer one. And let's see, the double match days are going to be, there's 2 of them, Saturday, March the 13th.
Yeah.
And Saturday, April 3rd. So we really encourage all of our partnering churches and St. Luke's to get people to go and buy the cards, especially on those 2 days, because our money multiplies. You know,
What were those dates again?
March the 13th and April the 3rd.
Those are our double match days.
Right. Right.
And it will tell right on the sign that it's for Under One Roof Food Pantry.
Yes. And it's only for the Maumee store. The other stores, like we have a store here in Sylvania, and a lot of times they do the Jewish Community Center here. But there's other places that they contribute to also. So each store chooses from their neighborhood, so to speak.
As I have to say, as many times as I've been through the Myers line, I've never seen that.
Okay, we're gonna watch for it because, yeah.
They
Hey, you know
don't
where they
have
have
it all the
as
time.
you go through the checkout, all the gum and stuff.
You know, but you can't go through maybe the self-checkout. Maybe you have to go through a regular line.
Probably not on the self-checkout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jane and Dino, I don't know, I didn't think about it until now, but you may not know that I'm the assistant pastor at the church. And then Carla Lewis and John Sluhan are both on our mission elders.
Okay.
So I'll speak for them and saying that I think we'll promote that this year.
Absolutely.
So we'll put some things out for sure about that, because that's a really, really big deal. I'm glad that we got to talk before that starts, because I'm really excited about that.
We would appreciate that.
And I think it's great that we have gone all the way through the pandemic being open. I mean, there were some people said you should just close it. I mean, you know, you're exposing the volunteers. Well, we're very strict on our procedures. And so the church really wanted to keep it open, and we said, you know, we'll give it a try. And we have had no problems whatsoever. Now, again, people make appointments. So we have the volunteers who work in the food pantry, bagging the food and getting it out. But we also have phone volunteers, and they work on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, again, for 2 hours, and they work every other week. And they screen the people who call in, I mean, find out their names, their address, etc. And then they make the appointments. Now, if people stop by and don't know we have appointments, we take them anyway. Or sometimes they get mixed up and they thought it was a different time. We've started being open the first and third Thursday evenings, because we felt that there could be people who maybe they don't work, but maybe their family does, and that's the only way they can get there. We do not deliver food. I had that question the other day, but we really can't do that. But so if a family works, then they can bring their mom, dad, or their neighbor. And we have some people who come together, like 3 of them. There's one person in the neighborhood who can drive. And so they'll come together. That really makes a lot of groceries in the car. Let me tell you, we get, what would you say, 8-10 bags of groceries usually. Yeah, so they have I had talked to the church about our van, and maybe bringing people from Mosaic, but that got a little complicated. They do have somewhat of a food bank also, although I can probably guarantee that they would get a lot more groceries from us. But it would be a problem, because by the time those people got in the bus, got all their groceries, I don't know how you'd ever sort out whose was whose. So we've never done that. But we do actually, sometimes people bring in something, like they go to Costco and they get something really big, and we can't use it at the food bank because if we can't separate it. So we take a lot of things to Mosaic.
Right.
And we don't have a lot of babies. And so if we get a big, maybe a big box of formula, for instance, we take it to Mosaic because we know they need it. Right, Sarah?
Well, could I ask a question?
Somebody will bring one of those institutional size cans of something. Well, you know, you don't want to give that to a family. So, although we have a couple of families that have 11 and 12, so they can use that.
I guess the question.
So if I could ask this, does the United Way still have the scouting for food?
Yes.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we used to, of course, we have a big fall campaign. And when I was there, they started scouting for food to do something in the spring. And let me tell you, when these companies get competing against one another, that brought a huge amount of food into the Toledo structure.
Our largest food drive was the Maumee Boy Scouts.
Last March.
And they brought so much food that we had to set up tables inside of our preschool, which was closed at the time because of COVID, so that we could sort it all and check the expiration dates and everything. And we didn't have enough room to store it right there in the food pantry. We have limited storage in there. We drew from that for months. It was a couple of months before to use that food up. Yes.
It was an amazing drive. Besides the food, they also gave, some people get monetary donations, and we got like $3,000 or $4,000 to go along with that food.
I'm glad it's still alive. Thank you.
Yes. The Boy Scouts actually are, we should consider them one of our partners because they continue to support us. Usually at least twice a year with a food drive. And people really respond to the Boy Scouts. Very positive thing.
And individuals can drop off too, correct? Do you still have the tables outside? Okay.
Yeah, that's
good, because I keep telling people that. I wanted to make sure I was right.
They keep dropping off.
Yeah, we get dropped offs quite often.
What about, I know that it's one of the only food pantries that also will have like some cooking tools, basics. If someone were, say, to donate a crock pot, would it have to be brand new, or can it be gently used, or are you not doing that anymore?
We do not have the room to do that as much as we would like to. The only time that we've given away any cooking.
Were you off, or was it just me?
Just you went away, Janet. We thought you just didn't like us anymore.
I got tired of this group, so I left.
Oh, you left, right. We did have an instance though where you might recall there was an apartment fire a couple of winters ago, and we had numerous families that all lost their homes at the same time, and the Red Cross came in and was working with those families to get relocated. And you can imagine they had to find new apartments for all of these different families. And we decided at that time that we would want to help those families get restarted. Because if you think about it, when you have a fire, you lose everything. And giving them groceries isn't, it's helpful, but what do they cook it in? What do they eat off?
So it was just during that time, because I knew about that time because I helped with that.
And I think that's what you were probably.
It's absolutely what I was going back to. Yes.
Yes. So those families that were impacted by the fire, they got pots and pans, they got silverware, they got dishes, they dish towels, and just all the kinds of things, can openers, anything like that. We just put together boxes for each family to help them get started. Actually, we talked to our partnering churches also. And what happened was they said, well, we don't want to all be giving them the same items. Why don't we each designate some particular item that we'll do? So one church would give towel sets. Another church would give sheets and blankets and pillows. And they kind of divided it up by the rooms of the houses, so that we didn't duplicate our efforts. And I think the families were really, really appreciative of everything that we did to get them started. They needed.
I think our church was involved with that, with bedding. Remember that, Carla?
Yes, we were. Yes, I do. I also had a friend whose brother was involved in losing everything in that fire. So
yes.
I saw it from both ends, and he was so appreciative of everything that he got to be able to get back on his feet. So yes.
And then the Red Cross came to one of our advisory board meetings, and we've kind of loosely partnered with them that if there's another fire or something disastrous, that they can come to us and
right.
Okay.
Food, and
we want to continue.
Again, we'd probably involve the churches in other things.
I have a question about the food. How do you select, or who selects what food a family gets and how much?
That's a good question. When we first got started, we asked the county health department if they would give us some pointers, because they deal a lot with nutrition and what's best for families. And they talked to us about the different food groups and made some recommendations on things that we could carry. So if you would come into our food pantry, you would see that we have the different food groups on a chart, and then we have the food organized by those different food groups. And we make sure that each family gets something from each of those food groups, so we know they're getting a healthy, balanced diet.
How much do they get, or how do you decide the amounts?
By the size of the family, because we have some people that are living alone. So of course they would need less than a family of 4 or 6. By the ages of the family members, as far as, what types of food they might eat. If we have a family with children coming in, we make sure and give them things that kids will like to eat. And we started out giving them about a 3-day supply. That was when we were still in the basement. And I think, Janet, I don't know, what would you think? I would think at least a week's worth of groceries.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
And it depends. It's interesting when they come in to shop, because they'll say they'll get a hamburger and they'll say, oh, let's see, I'll choose kidney bean, I'll make chili, or I can do this, and they spread it out so that some of them don't do that. They're maybe not as good at cooks or whatever, but a lot of them choose what they want because they're penning their menu in their head. And but now we have, again, it's a computer program, it's called Pantry Track, and through that we can see we don't look at it because we don't care, but they can see where all these people have gone, because they can go to as many pantries as they want. If they start running low on food, they can go to another pantry. Right now, they can go back to ours in a week if they run out. But it really is not limited to just one food pantry, because if you have a family of 4 or 6, you need a lot of food.
I think when United Way offered all of these area food pantries the software, the Pantry Track software, their idea was that if we can pool all of this data that we're getting from each of these food pantries, we'll have a better idea of where hunger lives in our region. Because it's hard to figure out sometimes, just where the real need is. And so I'm sure that they use that data for a lot of different government programs.
I will say also, during this COVID, you absolutely would not believe the generosity of our community. It is amazing. The people who bring in bags and bags or boxes and boxes, and the cash contributions. I mean, it's not terribly unusual to have someone come in and give us $500 check. It's just amazing. It does your heart good to see what they're doing. When the Scouts came, when they had the Churches United went together and they had that food drive, we had so much food. I mean, our pantry isn't huge. We couldn't get it in the pantry. And so fortunately, or unfortunately, of course, but St. Paul's was closed to people coming into church. So there were tables put up in the hallways, and we put the food on those in the church. And then we'd go into the church and buy some groceries, move them over to the pantry when we needed them. But you just would not believe St. Luke's, their employees have a drive and their doctors have a drive. And I think the doctors this year gave cash.
They did.
But when they bring in that food, and in fact, it was interesting because I got a new volunteer just this week. The Wayne Trail School on Martin Luther King Day, when they're off school, they've started, I think it's 3 or 4 years now they've done it. They've started a service day, and ours is one of the sites they choose. And so they come in and they bring a lot of food, and then we have them sort it and take it over to the shelves so they can see how the pantry works. And then to say something again on our church, they get picked up and they're brought to First Presbyterian, where they're given lunch and pretty much a movie. Isn't that what they usually do, or games? Or
yeah, they play some games, have some lunch, and we try to keep them contained in certain ways. But yeah, Carla, you've helped with that, I think.
Yes. Yeah, we've done it for 4 years now, which is really nice. Yeah, it's been 4, and the kids will bring in food to the school, and then that gets picked up by the bus. And yeah, it's great for them to understand where it's going.
Yeah, we have to limit now how many we can take, because again, we're not that big. But so, well, actually she started last week. One of the teachers from Wayne Trail that came to the food pantry when they had the service day, she started volunteering. She had so much fun at the food pantry that she called and wanted to volunteer. So she's now volunteered. Judy and Charlie, would you like to say anything about how we whip you into shape when you get there?
Yeah, it's good exercise.
It is.
And how appreciative.
It is. It's very enjoyable how appreciative the people are that receive the food. Absolutely. It's just unreal. At times it could bring a tear to your eye. I really mean it. And during Christmas, we were giving out a $20 gift card to a Speedway to each family that came, and they just couldn't say enough about it.
Yeah.
When you get a cash donation, is that you use that money to buy food? Then yourselves, is that what you do?
We actually do a lot of shopping. Period. Yeah, we do a lot of our own shopping, other than what people bring in and what the food bank brings us. But Jane and Dino can attest to the fact how much shopping we do.
We shop twice a week at least. Once after we're open on Monday, we'll go through and make our shopping list of everything that we're low on. And we give that to one of our shoppers, and they have to get that taken care of before the next time the food pantry opens on Thursday. And then after we're done with our shifts on Thursday, we have another shopper we'll do the same process again, make a list, give it to our Thursday shopper, and she gets it to the food pantry before we open on Monday.
Do you have means for, perishable items such as milk and so forth? Is that something you use?
That's normally what the shoppers get when they shop each week. They will get eggs and milk and vegetables and cheese and bread. That kind of stuff. And if we're low on meat, they will buy meat also. It's pretty much the refrigerator gets refreshed twice a week.
We have a commercial size refrigerator and freezer side by side.
Okay.
So that allows us, and that has just been the last 5 years since we moved up from the basement, because we would have never been able to get something like that down into the basement. But once we moved to the ground level, then we were able to get a commercial size appliance.
Since most of you, other than Jane and Dino, of course, are from our church, when we moved upstairs, we had a real mishmash of shelves, wooden shelves and wire shelves, and we had all kinds of, it looked very unsanitary actually, because it was just the way it was. And so I went to First Presbyterian and asked if we could buy all new shelves, all new that matched. They're all wire shelves, you know, so they don't get so dirty like wooden shelves do. And so you saw in the picture, it looks very nice, very clean. It's very, very clean in there. And so it was a big thank you to First Pres for furnishing the money for those shelves.
It was a wonderful gift for a grand opening, just wonderful. And it's amazing how many pounds of food those shelves hold. I mean, there are times when we think, what would be the maximum? Because we think we've reached it and then some. Because, you know, canned food is heavy. And we buy it by the cases and stack those things up. And the big bottles of juice, you know, with 12 in a container. So that's a lot of weight on those shelves. And we have not had any problem with them whatsoever. But they're commercial grade shelving. So
yes,
it was a beautiful gift. Thank you so much.
Came from Lowe's.
Lowe's, right.
And I had a sale day too.
Was it the Perrysburg Lowe's, I hope?
Of course you did.
Was it what?
I say, was it the Perrysburg Lowe's, I hope?
No, it was, I don't know. It's no, I guess that's Toledo. I was going to say is the one on Airport Highway. It was that one.
Okay, well that's okay. I work at Perrysburg Lowe's.
Oh.
Where do the shoppers shop at when they list? Where
they only have cards for Myers on Conant Street.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's Myers on Conant Street. All our shopping is done there. Even if we have to pay for it with cash, it's still done at Myers because they give us so much, we own the business.
That makes sense.
You know, the whole time I've been sitting here listening, I can't get over how that food pantry is. I keep thinking of the word hope, how that place, you know, the work you are doing gives people hope when they need it. And I'm blown away by that. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and just as a practical question, is if I'm understanding correctly, in normal times, people would actually shop. They would go through the pantry and pick their own items out. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So we all
up until COVID, up until March, that's the way it was.
I'll hope that'll come back one of these days. But I wondered if you could share. Is that a unique system? Is that they get to actually shop for their groceries in normal times, we'll say? And if so, what's the kind of the thinking behind that as your organization?
Well, I guess before we came upon that system, we visited several food pantries to see how they were in operation. And that isn't the case at every food pantry. I would think most of them like Janet had talked about, some of them will just put together a box of food and give it to people. When you see these drive-through situations, that food is already boxed and it's just given to them, whether, you just hope it's things that they can use. We also saw pantries where they would have a big waiting room and people wouldn't have appointments and they would come in and with all the other people that had a need for food. And we kind of thought that is, you know, if it's hard for you to ask for help, then that type of situation would be maybe degrading to you, or you would hesitate to ask for the help. So we talked about all of those things before we made up our process. And we decided that we wanted our clients to have some sense of privacy, so that if it was difficult for them to ask for help, that they wouldn't feel like they were on display, you know, for lack of better words. And then we just thought that we had heard from other food pantries that they would sometimes see people going through the food that they had been given in a box, and they would just take out things they weren't going to use and leave them in the parking lot. And we thought, well, we don't want that happening because we have other things going on at our church, and who wants to go out there and clean up the parking lot? And why not just let people choose from each food group what they would actually use, you know? And that's one of the things that is a disadvantage with COVID, is that they don't get those personal preferences much. But we will ask them, you know, like as far as meat, we have chicken, shrimp, or pork today. What would you like? Which would you prefer? Or we'll ask them if they want hot or cold cereal, or do you need any hygiene products? We'll ask people, is there anything specifically that you need this week that we can help you with? So that we, you know, like if they're out of detergent or diapers or baby wipes, anything like that, that they can ask. And as long as we have it, we'll certainly customize their order for them.
I think one of the most important things that I watch for as we look at new volunteers is somebody that's going to treat those people with dignity and, you know, not look down on them. I mean, we have fun with them when they come in to shop. We're laughing and, you know, they're picking out things. And I don't think they really feel as, you know, as Jane said, you know, they don't feel like they're needing something. They're there shopping. Mm-hmm. And so we really, I think that is so very, very important. And so many times when they leave, they will say, you know, God bless you. We really appreciate this. God bless you. We hear that a lot. Mm-hmm. And some of the people we get to know, like one, I'm sure we'd all, Jane and Charlie and Judy and Dino all know, they can't have any spice. And we hear that every time they come. I can't have anything spicy. Yes, we know that. We know that. But that's really an important part of what we're doing, is not making them feel at all as if they're beggars or, you know. And we have had a number of people who have come back and said, you know, I came in here when I was laid off and I'm back to work and I want to donate. And so that's wonderful. And, you know, they feel so badly, some of them. And, but when they get back on their feet, they're there with a check or a bag of groceries or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful program. It really is.
Some of our clients, that's okay. Some of our clients actually right now are living in motels. That they have And we've had people that live in their car.
Yeah.
Come in. So, I mean, you really do have some people that are, they've been on hard times for a while, you know, and then you have to, you know, say, well, like, what kinds of appliance, do you have any appliances, or do you need things that makes a difference in the kind of food you're going to give them.
Right.
Because if they don't have any way to prepare anything, then you're not really helping them all that much. So we do find out what their situation is if they're willing to tell us, and we'll help out that way. I'm sorry, you had a question, Mr. Sargent?
Yes, Jane or Dino, when did this transition just from St. Paul's to Maumee Churches United?
When was it?
I think we expanded when we moved. Janet, do you remember what year it was when we moved? Was it 12?
I started in 14, and I think, and we had the church, well, we didn't really use the church as much, but obviously I was there from our church. So, so it's been 5 years, maybe.
Right. Our church had a capital campaign, and during that capital campaign, they decided there was a storage garage sitting on the property that we just kept rummage sale supplies in and things like that. And the food pantry is exactly where that double car garage was. So it's exactly the same footprint. If you're wondering what the size of the food pantry is, it's the size of a double garage. So it's not huge, you know, but it works.
The other nice thing is it has its own entrance, and I'm going to hold this up again. This is what we look like on the outside.
Up a little higher, Janet.
Higher.
Higher. Higher.
See, and we have a sign in our window under one roof, and that's the door they come in, so they're right immediately. When it was in the basement, they had to go in the church and go down, and now, you know, we can have them come right in that door. And then adjacent to the food pantry is the parking lot, or one of the parking lots, and so, you know, they can drive. They can't drive totally up to the food pantry because St. Paul's also has a nursery school, and that's the area they're in. And so we can't have cars pulling in and out of there when we have little kids running around. So we have to be a little strict on that they have to park in a parking place. And then Charlie's good at running that food out there, aren't you, Charlie?
Try to.
Do you get into gift cards to restaurants?
If somebody donates them, yes, we do. We've had a couple of big donations of gift cards that we were able to give out, and people do love them. We don't go out and buy them, but if they're donated, we make sure they get distributed.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, really? I don't know that I remember us having that.
Must be first part of December. Somebody brought like
Panera.
It was about $200 or $300 worth of gift cards they bought.
Oh, that's right.
They usually go like $15 or $25 or somewhere in that range. Not really expensive, but somebody gets a $15 Panera bread card, they think they can go get coffee and a donut or whatever. It's something special for them. So.
And our clients love it because it's probably been a long time since they've gone anywhere out to eat, you know, even if it's a pickup order, they don't get to do that. So that's
and under the current conditions, I'm sure there are many of them would love to go out and sit down in a restaurant.
Probably not. That was actually the Perrysburg Rotary that gave us those gift cards. Now that I think about it.
Yes.
Well, they also would love just driving through McDonald's.
Yes.
I mean, you know, they don't they're not able to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Some of them were like Starbucks and, you know, other coffee shops and things like that. It wasn't just restaurants, but Panera Bread, I remember we had quite a few of those. So.
Yeah. Looks like we have use the Panera products they give us when they were day old.
Yes.
Yes. You know, Panera has specialized bread, and the people who come to the pantry like white bread sliced. And they don't want any of these fancy breads. They want white sliced bread. So that's all we buy anymore.
We've got just a few minutes left, so I did want to ask Jane and Dino and Janet and Charlie and Judy, you know, if there's any, I guess, what needs do you all have at the pantry right now? I don't know if Jane and Dino, you know, but the intention of this time together is obviously to learn about our mission partners, but we also plan on checking in hopefully twice a year. So maybe in 6, 7, 8 months, we'll be getting together again and seeing how everything's going over there. But in the meantime, I wanted to see if there are any needs you have that we can consider before we end our call tonight.
I was interested in knowing if there is a need for volunteers at this time.
We're filling them as the need arises. Again, before COVID, we had a lot of volunteers and we usually could take all volunteers. Now, again, we're not supposed to have more than 2 people in the pantry at one time. So as a vacancy appears, then I'm,
and you're going to call me.
Use that. I'm going to call you because Marcia, you just don't do anything. I mean,
that's right.
So, and the other thing I'd like to do, we haven't talked about this, Jane and Dino, because we have no idea when this COVID thing is going to end. But when we first moved upstairs, we had an open house that people could come in and see the pantry on a Sunday afternoon. And I'd like to do that again, but not while COVID is in existence. That'll be when everything opens back up. When is that? About April, do you think?
Yeah, next year.
I was hoping for tomorrow, actually, but.
But I think that would be nice again to have people come through and see it.
Sure. Are there any in particular items you're in need of right now? Or are you guys all set?
I'd like to make a request.
Yeah.
We need help with getting more clients.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay. We've got this whole supply and demand thing that we're trying to balance. And we're very good on supplies right now. Okay. We need referrals. So if you can think of any ways that you can get the word out to people who are food insecure, that we have the capacity to serve more people. And we want to serve more people. So, we don't know where they are.
Okay.
So think about that as a group and brainstorm some ways that we can get out. This is one of the topics that we're going to talk about at our March meeting, is that if there are families out there struggling, we want to find them and we want them to find us.
Do you work with the schools on that?
We do. The schools know about us because they contribute, they donate. So school counselors know about us and they can refer families to us. Yeah.
And we're thinking of looking at some of the programs like No Kid Goes Hungry. Okay, but that family has needs too. And so maybe by hitting places like that, because as I say, that people have been so generous that, now we have a very good supply. And so yeah, we could still use people. I mean, we'd open another day if we had to. I mean, if we had enough people.
Maybe a sign at the unemployment office would be in order.
That's right, Jerry. That could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about maybe at laundromats, people that don't have washers and dryers, maybe might be families.
So if you think of anything like that, we'd like to hear those. As Jane said, we're going to talk about it at advisory board, but
just give your ideas to Janet, and I'm sure she'll pass them on to us or to Charlie and Judy.
Well, it's 8 o'clock, so I'll put in a last call for a last question if there is one, and then I'll close this in prayer.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure hearing from you. It's important.
Thank you for asking us to join you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
We'll be asking again, don't worry.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be able to say, wow, wasn't COVID a real trip? Huh?
All right, let's pray together and we'll close our call. Lord, we are so grateful for this ministry we're talking about in the hearts of people in our community to serve others, and Janet and Jane and Dino and their call to work in this important ministry that, like I said earlier in the call, this is a source of hope for people. They can see Christ in that place and see the hope that you bring. And as Jane mentioned, we do hope, and we do pray that you give us the means and the ways to find more people who can be helped and can find that hope. We pray to give us the insight to do that and the wisdom to love others the way that you love us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you and enjoy.
All right, everybody.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
Thanks again, Jane and Dino.
Bye now.
Janet.
Nice meeting you all.
You too.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.